Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another video. This time around, it's going to be on the EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. And I'm going to roll an event preview and event predictions kind of into one here. Mainly because I'm recording this on Tuesday night and it has to go out tomorrow, which is today for you guys. It's been a hot day. It's been really hot. It's been like 30 degrees in the UK. It's genuinely horrendous, and I don't do well in heat because I sweat like mad. But here we are. We're going to be talking about EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. Now, you did see my EEG CEL Season 3 LCQs video where we had 10 teams making it into the playoffs. This is for the final stage of the EEG CEL Season 3 season. Now, if you don't know who EEG are, they're one of the biggest leagues in Europe. Alongside Esports Universe, they kind of run the amateur European scene, as it were. And this is basically like the last hurrah for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. This is the last major league. There is still Call of Duty to be played for the rest of the year, but it won't be played on Black Ops 4. Now though, moving on, let's get into the event details. So this event will be held online fully in Europe from the 24th to the 28th of July with €3,000 worth of prizing on the line. Now I stress worth of prizing, we'll get to that later on. It will hold 40 teams within it. It's a massive bracket and it will be casted by myself, George Boffers-Bray, as well as Chris Stealth, you may know him of course from ex-CWL caster, and Connor Mez, who has casted EEG and Esports Universe before. And you can see on your screens right now the 40 teams who have made their way in. Now this is the 40 organizations, but you don't really get to draw much from this graphic provided kindly by EEG. So let's actually talk about the individual rosters on each team. Okay, so let's talk about their teams. Now, I've been so kind to highlight some teams for you guys from the 40 to talk about which ones are the best, per se. Now, just a disclaimer before I get into the predictions / the highlighting part of the event preview / predictions. This doesn't necessarily mean that anybody outside the predictions is not going to do well. Just because I do not think that you are a team that I would highlight doesn't mean I do not see you as a good team. Just to get you out of the way before anyone murders me on Twitter and has my life in DMs. I don't really want that. But without further ado, let's get into the highlighted team. So again, we're going to kick things off right from the top. Black Claw Esports, pretty, everyone knows them. They got second in Season 1, third in Season 2, and they've been dominating the Spanish scene all season long. Going into Black Ops 4, they were the only team to have not made a change. And they have finally done so in the season. They've swapped out Burn for Rail, but I don't think that's really damaged the team. Really good. I expect a very high placement from this team. Moving on, you got Efficiency and Limited, two teams that placed top 24, both Spanish in Season 2. Honestly, these guys, they could take some serious series off some teams who maybe wouldn't expect it. So that's why I put them as highlighted teams. Moving on, you got Void Gaming. Now, there is quite a big story to Void here in the EEG Season 3 playoffs. They're a team that didn't, technically speaking, qualify for playoffs. This roster played under Radiant in the LCQs. There, they lost to Viral in the losers bracket to find themselves removed from the LCQs, but Boffers has given the roster new life again under his organisation Void, and they're now going to be playing in the EEG playoffs. But they better do something better with their third life, as it were, in Season 3 playoffs. Moving on, you got University. Now, I've no doubt that University are going to be one of the biggest talking points in the EEG Season 3 playoffs. I know they already are. As a matter of fact, you may know this roster. They placed top 16 under Fuego at the CWL Miami Open. There, of course, they qualified for champs. Here now, they're playing under University exclusively for the EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. Now, look, when pros or ex-pros or sort of kind of pros, neo pros come into EEG and leagues like this, generally speaking, it can go one of two ways. They can perform very well or they can shit the bed. And so I've put them as a highlight team, and I'll get to where I predicted them later on. But they are a team that could very much rock this entire bracket, but they're also a team that could not provide very much at all. So we'll get to that later on. Future Youth and Radiant Esports, again, these two rosters, you know what you get with them. Future Youth have been pretty consistent throughout the season, one of the nice surprises, I feel. And Radiant Esports, they're real classic players. Runner, Henry, and Billy, these guys synonymous with the Radiant brand, I think, within recent times. Smokes has proven himself well enough this season, and of course now they're bringing Niall into the fold, who played under Giants, but unfortunately didn't qualify for COD champs. Moving on, we've got Zero Zone Zone. Now this team, I believe they played under Fact Revolution and got top 12 in Season 2. Just for that reason alone, I put them as a highlight team, as it were, for the Season 3 playoffs. I've seen them play, and they're actually a very, very good team. I think they can come out and shock a lot of rosters, just like Efficiency and Limited can. Moving on, you've got Pushing Gaming. Now, Pushing are a little bit of a weird one for me. They performed very well in Season 1. They got 3rd place in Season 1 playoffs. And honestly, I think it was very deserved. They're one of the best teams there. Now, though, Season 2, they didn't even make playoffs. So they've had a bit of an up and down season. I'm still going to highlight them for Season 3 just to see what they can do. Moving on, we've got Peak Esports, Isaac Browning, Astro, Krishi, and C24. Now, Peak as an organisation, they've recently had to sort of give their roster a bit of a genesis, as it were. And to be honest, it's not a bad roster to come out of that kind of situation with. You've got names like C24 and Isaac, who have been very good this season, and sort of old names, as it were, with Brownie and Creasy. So I'm very excited to see how this roster performs. I have put them as a highlight team just on name brand alone. Moving on, you've got a sort of a triple threat here. Velma and the gang, they'll be playing under Corrupt Light in the EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. Nexus, Tremor and Carlson from Buzzkill performed very well, actually, in the regular season for the Esports Universe Summer Cup. I expect more of the same. And sort of joining the old guard, as it were, and Bran and Ryzen, I think this roster is very good, and I liked what I saw from them in the LCQs. Moving on, you got Buzzkill. Again, this is just like Radiant, just like Future. You know what you expect from these guys. They've been playing for years. Fusions, Gizmo, Saiyan, Welsh Geordie, and Kreza. Of course, the latter of which, Kreza, recently also qualified for champs with Train Hard. So, very good player, that guy. Moving on, Future Gaming, Kaiser, Hectic, Zesty, Cliffy, and CD. Now, if you do follow the amateur leagues, you will know that these guys recently won the Esports Universe Summer Cup, so they have got a lot of stock in them coming into the Season 3 playoffs. How that stock will translate is yet to be seen, but their bracket is very nice. Again, we'll get to that in just a moment. So I'm kind of excited to see how they perform and if they could do the double. Moving on, you've got Finesse. Now, this is my favourite roster across the board. You've got Detain, you've got Insight, you've got Disarray, you've got Iviano, and you've got Genesis. Detain and Insight, of course, coming straight from Team Singularity. Disarray coming from Hyperboom. Iviano and Genesis coming from Afe. Now, the last three, they didn't have such a good Miami. I don't think they'll be happy with the fact that they didn't qualify, but Detain and Insight were on that Singularity roster that destroyed and got top 6. So to be honest, I expect big things out of Finesse. I mean, look, the thing is, you've got Iviana and Genesis, who are masters at winning amateur leagues. They did it for an entire year under Bulldog. So I expect big things from this roster. And finally, to close out the highlight teams, you've got Viperio, Milo, Sparrow, Hypno, Divinity, and Haze. Now, they've kind of, again, they've had to go through their own Genesis coming into playoffs. Milo and Sparrow are the only two playing on the roster from the LCQs. They're joined by Hypno, Divinity, and Haze here for playoffs. Again, Hypno, Divinity, and Haze, they're names that everyone knows. I think if you're in the amateur scene, you know what to expect from these guys. Divinity is a very good player. Unfortunately, got shafted on Tal before Miami. Again, you know what to expect. I think this team will do well. So that's going to do it for the highlighted teams. Now I'm going to go for my predictions first, just to show you guys kind of how messed up this event is. Okay, so this is my predictions. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably going to be screaming right now at me. What are you doing putting University fourth? What are you doing? You madman. And there's a lot of other names here that I think you're going to be thinking, Brody, you're literally dumb. What are you doing? And I can understand that. I can understand just from first look at looking at my predictions that this looks a little bit mad. You've even got Buzzkill top 12, which is so unrealistic when you look at where they should be in comparison to teams maybe like Limited or maybe like Pushing. However, there is a reason for this, and I'm gonna just switch straight to the bracket to show you guys just how mad, and then I'm gonna come back to the predictions so maybe it looks a little bit better. Alright, so here is the bracket. Now, this is kind of messed up. This bracket, I tweeted about it yesterday. You'll kind of know, if you do follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I tweeted about this. It is mad. This bracket is incredibly top heavy. Like, I can't stress how uneven this bracket is. It's not EEG's fault, it's just the way the seedings come out with LCQs and everyone how they placed in the regular season. So I'm not going to go too deep in the bracket. Obviously, we can't talk about every interaction, every match, but this is how I predict the bracket to go. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I just want to talk about how mad this bracket is. So if you were to slice this bracket in half, this would look like a playoffs bracket in itself. This looks less like a playoffs bracket. So let's talk why. So right off the bat, in winners round 1, you've got a match Velma and the gang and Buzzkill. That's their own fault for having to go through LCQs, right? Then, when you go further, you've got matches straight off the bat. You've got sort of Void versus Finesse. That's crazy. University versus Peak. That's crazy. And even in the lower half, which I was talking about, you've got Efficiency versus Future. That is a mad start to any bracket, right? But just to talk about this upper half first, then you've got matches forced into winners round 3, such as Blacklaw versus Pushing, which is a Spanish face-off. You've got Vanessa versus Zero Zone, which again is a pretty hard match for Zero Zone. University versus Luxor. Okay, never mind. But still, the point is, you've got all teams. I can name teams on this side of the bracket which are Finesse versus University, right? They should be top 2 in this. To me, at the very least, they are the top 2 teams in this bracket. Then they're joined by Blacklaw, who are an insane team, right? Blacklaw are amazing. Radiant as well. All 4 of these teams could make it here, and they would make it here, in my opinion, if they were on the other side of the bracket. But they're not. So, the other side of the bracket, and this isn't to rag on the other side of the bracket, it's just mad to me how this has happened, because now you've got teams. I mean, look, to be honest, I'll be honest in saying that I do not think Team Limited would get here, could get to top 6 without this bracket run. They just wouldn't, and they might not even get 6. I mean, Viperio may get 6, and I wouldn't be surprised. This is a toss-up of a match, but this is an incredible bracket for this quadrant, as it were. Team Limited obtained Empyrean, Blade Blue, Martial Punishment, Viperia, Recognized Talent, Corrupt Light, and even Polaris and 404 Multi-Gaming EV. All of you guys, you should be partying. You have a top 6 finish in your hands. That's incredible. But to be fair to this quadrant, as it were, it's still not all that bad. You've got Future Gaming and Future Youth, which will be an interesting matchup if it happens in the winners bracket round 4. But this is kind of how I see the winners bracket going. I kind of think Finesse and Future will be the winners bracket final, and Finesse will 3-0 that matchup. But the losers bracket is going to be a little bit harder. We'll sort of talk about the top 16 onwards, because the top 24 is it's the top 24. There's not really much else to say about that. There may be some teams going out early, like Efficiency Team, just because of the fact they have to face Pushing. But still, this is kind of how I see it going. Now, I did say that I feel as if University are a top 2 team here, but I feel like Blacklaw may surprise them. Blacklaw are a really good team. They have been so for quite some time. I am still of the opinion that Renkor is possibly one of the best under 18 players there are, if not the best under 18 player there is right now. There's a reason for that. I do think Blacklaw will be able to make their way to the grand final, and then Finesse will probably come out on top again, just because of how good they are as a team. So that's going to do it for the bracket, a little bracket preview. Again, this bracket, like I said, it's extremely top heavy. That's the overall point here, is just the fact that you've got teams like Blacklaw, Radiant, Finesse, University, Pushing, Zero Zone, all on the same side of the bracket. I mean, Buzzkill, for heaven's sake, have to face Blacklaw round 1. They have to get through Velma and the gang, and then Blacklaw round 2. That's a pretty insane bracket run. However, that's going to do it for the bracket. Now let's actually get back to the predictions, and now maybe they make a little bit more sense per se. So, as I said, now maybe they make a little bit more sense now, those predictions. Now let's just run through them. So, Finesse, I have them coming top. I think Detain and Insight are such great players. I do think they'll end up taking the EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. Blacklaw, they've been consistent throughout the season. There's no reason for them to drop out early in this tournament. I think they'll do extremely well. Future Gaming, again, just by sort of the virtue of the bracket, as it were, they'll sort of guarantee top 3, because they have such an easy run. As soon as they get through their sister team, it'll be done. University, again, I think their struggles will only really come with Blacklaw and Finesse. I think they're a very, very good team. You can't go wrong with Madcap. That's all I'll say. Top 6 Limited, again, kind of blessed in a way. Future Youth, they will also more than likely get there. And that comes down from the losers bracket, as it were, just with the teams that the way this bracket kind of looks to go. Now, Radiant Esports, again, only top 8 because University would be beating them in the losers bracket. Pushing Gaming, very, very good team. Maybe sort of interchangeable with Future Youth depending on what happens. 9th through 12th, Void Gaming, Corrupt Light, which is Velma and the gang, Buzzkill and Viperio. That's kind of just, again, how I see the bracket going, plus where those teams run into the losers bracket. Finally, ending with Zero Zone, Peak Esports, Revive Nation, and Team Viral in the top 16. So right on the edge, they will break into the top 16, according to my predictions. So that's going to do it for the predictions and a look at the bracket. Let's end the video with a final look at how the prize pool looks. Alright, so let's talk about the prize pool real quick. So we're just going to go through very quickly. As I said, guys, it's 3,000 euros worth of prizing, not 3,000 euros flat. That's made up of X amount, like 2,500 thereabout, worth of actual prizing, as well as some extra bits added on at the end, like floor pads and X Gamer tubs and so on. So first place gets 1,250. That's 250 euros each, plus 5 floor pads between them. That's, again, 1 floor pad each. Second place, 500 euros. That's 100 euros ahead with an X Gamer tub and shaker each, as well as re-entry into the next league. Third place gets 250 euros and entry into the next league. Fourth place, 120 and entry into the next league. Fifth through sixth gets 50 euros each and entry into the next league. And finally, 7th through 8th will receive 25 euros apiece. MVP gets an X Gamer tub and shaker. So there is something to play for if you want to be MVP. So that's going to do it for the prize pool, and it'll also do it for the video. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you did like what you saw today, please like and subscribe to my channel for all things amateur Call of Duty esports. We'll have a lot more content to come. Of course, I'm very excited to cast the EEG CEL Season 3 playoffs. You can watch it all at twitch.tv/the European Esports Gaming TV. Again, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.